Hey there, friend. Welcome back to Daily Dose Radio here in the Bible Bistro. Would you come on in here with me and let's open our Bibles up today, and we're going to finish off Psalm 7. Can you believe it? We have already gone through 7 of the Psalms. As we proceed down the highway here, I call it it's kind of like the Psalms is kind of like a great big warehouse, and you've got rooms, on each side of the hallway. And so we're on our little Segway riding down the hall, checking out each room. Some are big rooms, some are small rooms, but they all contain treasure. And so here's the treasure today. It's in Psalm 7, and we're going to look at verse 17. So 17 concludes the psalm. Let's go ahead and read that, and then I want to go back and do like a little review here. So verse 17, I will praise the Lord according to his righteousness. I will sing praise to the name of the Lord Most High. All right. So he says at the end of this psalm, I'm going to praise the Lord according to his righteousness. Now, what was the psalm about? You recall that at the beginning, we saw that this was a Shiggaion, an emotional psalm that David wrote, and he sang this. So this is a song of his. He sang it to the Lord. So there was only one audience here. He sang it to the Lord. So, and sometimes there are just some things that just belong between you and the Lord. Not everybody needs to hear it, but we have it here in the Psalms, and it's wonderful for us to see it. But it happened according to the report of Cush the Benjamite. So we go back to 2 Samuel chapter 18, and we see Cush comes in, and he tells David that Absalom is dead. And this breaks David's heart, and he goes up into the room above the gate there where he's staying, and he just weeps and grieves over Absalom. So that's where we begin. And then you'll notice the first 5 verses there, David is contrite, and he's hurt. The words that he uses, they sound like, if I'm the one that's caused this to happen, let the enemy attack me. So he's really down in the mouth about the whole thing, which I'm not accusing him. It's, perfectly understandable. He just lost his son. So, and then Joab comes to him, and Joab rails against him because he's weeping over his son. And you know what? Sometimes if you don't know what to say to somebody when they're grieving the loss of a child or of a spouse, just don't say anything. Just put your hand on their shoulder, sit down, and just be silent. Just sit there and grieve with them. Don't have to say anything. They don't need your advice. They don't. They're confused, they're hurt, they're lost. What they need is for you to pray for them. So Joab doesn't understand that. He's a man of war, so he comes up with that mentality. David, there's a Selah here after verse 5, and David says, rise up in your anger, Lord, and lift up against the outbursts of my enemies. So there is an enemy, and it's an enemy that's tearing at his soul. Remember, that's like a lion tearing at his soul. So David says, he takes comfort in the fact that the Lord is going to defend him. He prays, rise up, O Lord, against the enemy. And he takes comfort in the fact that the Lord is going to glorify himself in that, and that others are going to see it, those in the congregation. He's going to bring the wickedness to an end. And then this week we saw David comforting himself in the thought that God is his shield, and that the Lord is going to judge, and he's going to rise up if he doesn't turn from his great anger. And what's going to happen to the wicked? Well, he's sharpened the sword, and he's bent the bow and strung it. He's prepared all the instruments of death. And that is contrasted with the wicked who are conceiving sin and death. So all of this is about the Lord and how gracious he is, how good he is, how righteous and just he is. And then, we had 14, 15, 16, all of that speaks to what James taught us in James chapter 1. And then we come today, and he ends with these words, I will give thanks to the Lord. That's a hard thing to say after you've lost a child. But he says, I will give thanks to the Lord according to his righteousness. So all these things that he's comforted himself in the Lord, the judgment and the glorification and the defense and all of that. Now he says it's according to his righteousness. David couldn't give thanks to the Lord according to his feeling because he felt something awful. But he could give thanks to the Lord according to his righteousness because he knew that the Lord was going to deal righteously no matter what. With him, with all the believers in the land, and with all the wicked in the land. He knew the Lord would deal righteously. He always does. He says, I will give thanks to the Lord according to his righteousness. I will sing praise to the name of the Lord Most High. Which, of course, the introduction tells us that this was his song. And don't you know it was a song broken up by tears and weeping, but it was a song of praise to the Lord. Well, I hope you'll join me again next time as we look at Psalm 8 here on Daily Dose Radio.